classes. There's a little thing over here. Like we'll have to probably raise the top line to be number one. So I think you're coming to the class. And enjoy Cody.
Yeah. All right. Good morning, you guys. Can everybody hear me if I don't talk like crazy loud on this? Okay, sweet. So have you guys been coming pretty religiously to all the classes that have been going on? You've been to a bunch? Is this anybody's first? Oh, so half of you. Okay, sweet. Well, then that's good because they don't have any expectations. I can set the expectation. So I'll just tell you about myself. My name's Cody Fehlberg. Grew up in Houston, moved to Utah when I was in 8th grade, and my family has stayed here pretty much ever since. I've moved around as an adult, done lots of different things. I did door-to-door sales for 6 years. I was a regional sales manager for a door-to-door company back at that point. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of Living Scriptures. Do you remember the cartoons of the Bible and Book of Mormon stuff? I did that for 6 summers all over the country. It was fun. It was great. So I did that for a while, and then I worked in retail. I was a regional sales director for Verizon Retail. So at one point I had up to 38 stores that reported to me in Southern California. Moved back to Utah in 2017 because my little brother, who I have 4 brothers, and he and I were probably the closest of them. He had a snowboarding accident, had a traumatic brain injury, was in a coma for a month, and then was in the hospital for 4 months. And he had to relearn to walk, talk, all that kind of stuff. And now he's mentally disabled. So I wanted to get back and be closer. So we moved back in 2017. And then in 2019, actually, November of 2018, I was awarded the #1 performing regional sales director in the company for Verizon nationwide. And in January was laid off. So 2 months between #1 in the company and no job. And that's where I decided I'm done working for people who get to decide if I have a job or not, even though I'm the top performing at what I'm doing. So I started in real estate. I got my license in May of 2019. 2020 was my first full calendar year. I did $13 million in volume and was the Rookie of the Year for KW statewide. I started a team called Wow House with a partner named Kevin Moss. And we started to build that out, and that went really well. September of 2021, he unfortunately took his own life. And so I ran the team after that by myself. And after a while, I realized that most agents, even those who try really hard and want to be really great at what they do, either are incapable of doing some of the things that I was teaching them that needed to happen to be able to succeed at the level that they wanted to, or they were unable to, either they were unwilling or unable. And the result is the same, unfortunately. Whether you're not able to or whether you don't want to put yourself out there, the result is the same. And so I started ejecting people from my team every couple of months until I narrowed it down. And now I've got 1 agent on my team, another one's coming on board soon. But really at this point, I want to run lean and mean. I do a lot of volume. Last year I did $26 million in volume. And that was only my 4th full calendar year as an agent. So it can go quickly. And what I'm going to train on today is negotiating offers, because this is my thing, right? This is my value proposition to my clients. This is where I spend a lot of my time, my focus, my effort is I'm cheap. My brothers and everybody makes fun of me because I'm cheap. My wife and I, we don't like to spend our money. We work hard. She owns a business as well. And I don't like to spend my money. And there's a lot of things I don't think are worth my money. But that extends to my clients too. I don't like to spend my clients' money. I take really personally the responsibility of managing something that can cost them a lot of money, right? And it shows in the results, and we'll talk through some of that, but it shows in what I'm able to make happen for my clients. And that's really what I bring to the table. And so as we're going through this today, especially those of you who this is your first class, and some of you have been to a few, and we'll go around. I want to get some names and be able to kind of interact with you guys a lot. By the way, I'm an open book. You can ask anything. I'll tell you how to do everything I do it, because I know that 3 months from now, when you're on the other side of a transaction from me, you won't do it. I hope you will, but most don't. I've sat and trained rooms of 60 agents who taking notes like crazy. And then within a few months, they're making offers on listings that I have, and they don't do any of the stuff that we're going to talk through. And it blows my mind. But it's because it makes people uncomfortable to get out, outside of their comfort zone and do something that they're not used to, and maybe something they're not sure if they'll be good at or if they're doing it right, all that kind of stuff. But yeah, so this is kind of my value add to my clients is I'm gonna really take care of your money, and we're gonna get as much as we can, as much home as we can for as little price as we can, or we're gonna get as much money out of your home as we're able to in a time frame that you feel good about, all of that kind of stuff. So we're gonna talk through all of that. Yeah, so I mean that's my background a little bit. I just moved here to KW Westfield in January. I was at South Valley up in South Jordan for almost 5 years before that. And it was great. It was fun, but we've lived in Vineyard for a few years, so I didn't want to drive up there anymore. Anyway, so I'll go around and get your names. Give me like kind of what industry you're coming from. What have you done career-wise before this? Because it all kind of ties in together and helps me kind of understand how to interact with you. What's your name? Andrew? Andrew, what did you do before this? Okay, sweet. So are you moving into real estate like full time? Are you wanting to be a realtor? Or are you wanting to do investment? What are you looking for?
Full time for at least a couple of years, and then development, investing, unless real estate really helps me. And I'm trying to learn sales. That's why I signed up.
Cool. So you're wanting to head down the route of building your sales skills and ability. Okay, cool.
I came from a startup for this. I did workshop for about 2 years. I was in charge of, I was the creative director and one of the co-founders.
Cool.
So I did a lot of the brand development, and then a bunch of other like high level stuff. So I was mostly on like the creative and marketing side of it. And I'm hoping to just gain a bunch of experience. I'm brand new. I just got my license last month. So
Awesome.
get going. Hoping to at least start part-time, and then depending on what I need or what I like, what I'm good at, to maybe move closer to full-time. And I'm hoping to, I really just want to get as much experience as possible because I eventually want to build a real estate empire with my husband, and
Cool.
do lots of like good personal acquisition things. But in order to make the best decisions there, I need to gain a bunch of experience.
Awesome. Great.
My name's Chris. I came from collections and sales, doing this full time and just ready to get in and start grinding away. I got a brother-in-law who does it at Mountain West, and it's just given me a lot of point of view and wanted to talk to you.
Awesome. And are you guys, is everybody wanting to do like residential, or are any of you guys hoping to do commercial? You're wanting commercial? Okay. And I'll tell you, when I started in real, that was my plan. I have a brother-in-law who's a commercial broker up in Seattle, Spokane area. He did it for a long time in the Bay Area. I was hoping to do commercial, but I've done some commercial and I hate it. And so I'm all in residential now. But there are some people that they just love the commercial side to it. There's a lot of different ways you can do this, which is kind of cool.
My name's Trey. I've had my license for like a month. I came from construction, just odd construction job. So, yeah.
Awesome.
I'm Carlos. So I work with refugees in marketing, and I'm still studying for getting my license.
Okay, perfect. So are you still doing your course?
Yeah.
Okay.
Name's Matt. Background is in development. Now I'm looking to kind of combine my previous experience of software sales before working commercial real estate together and get into the commercial side of things, but looking to kind of work in brokerage, but more on the west side of the lake.
Awesome.
Yeah, well, still in school. Real estate school, like,
Sweet. Where at? Awesome. What's your last name? I thought so. I think I got a hoodie from you. a beanie you were selling a couple years ago. You're selling some stuff. Yeah, yeah. And so wait, so how long have you been done with football? Or are you? Okay. Okay. Sweet. And what have you been doing since then? Okay. Cool. What's that? What have you been doing? Cool. Sweet. Now you want to move into the realtor side? Okay. Cool. So one thing that I will just tell you guys all early on is really helpful for you to be I wouldn't say realistic, but be understanding of who you are and what you bring to the table. Okay. I know that you mentioned part-time. A lot of people either are part-time or want to start part-time and move into full-time. This is the biggest financial decision that a lot of people will make in their life, right? You're the surgeon for them doing this big thing. And I don't know that I would say, hey, I'm going to go get heart surgery. Let me find someone who only does this twice a year. Right? And so this is just, and if you are, you've got to really know what's your pitch to these people. Why should they use me? I can spit and hit a realtor. So why should they use me instead of anybody else that they know? And I've got a lot of clients who have family members who are pissed at them because they keep using me instead of their family member who's licensed. Right? You want to be that. You want to be the person that they're using and pissing off people they know because they're using you. So you've got to figure out, what is my pitch to people? Why should they use me? And like I mentioned from the beginning, this is my pitch to people, is that no one's going to negotiate for them better than I do. Right? But so as we go through this, and this may not be your thing. This may not be where you're going to add value for your clients. Maybe you do something else. But the thing I will tell you is that all of you, especially as you're kind of like new and looking to build, and you mentioned you were a creative director, so you probably are good at like developing site content, all that kind of stuff, right? I can't tell you how many people I know that get their license, and guess where they spend 90% of their time? The things that stop them from having to talk to people, right? Because that's uncomfortable. So if they can distract themselves with CE courses and building out my site and coming up with a logo and a catchphrase, and they develop everything except for the thing that needs to happen, which is business. And then a year later, they're out of the business. They're out of the industry. 2 years later, they don't even renew their license. Okay, I think it's like 90% of people who get their license don't renew 2 years later. That's wild. Right? But it's because all these things are going to make you uncomfortable. It's not because they should make you uncomfortable. It's because we're not comfortable doing them, right? And that's not the same thing. So I would just suggest, no matter what else you do, you've got to be out trying to find clientele. You've got to be out trying to find people who need something. So I got my license, I told you, May 1st is when I started at Keller Williams South Valley. September, so let's see. Yeah, I think it was 5 months. I had closed 0 transactions. Okay, 5 months of no income is not exciting when you have a wife and 3 kids, as I did at that point. Now we've got 4. 4 wasn't supposed to happen. 4 is too many. Those of you who don't have 4 kids yet, it's too many. 3 was perfect, but our 4th is awesome. But so mine went really quickly though. Okay, 5 months, nothing. And then October 1st, I had 3 closings. And between October 1st and December 31st that year, I closed 9 homes. The next year I sold 29 homes. The next year I sold 53 homes. And it just kind of escalates and scales from there. Right? So it can go quick, but you've got to be willing to, there's a phrase that they use a lot at KW. It's time on task over time. Meaning time on a transaction, time in the business is way more valuable than time in the industry. Those aren't the same thing. Right? My favorite thing is when I call an agent and within the first few minutes of talking to them, they tell me how long they've been in real estate. I don't care. Because in the 20 years you've been in real estate, you've done less transactions than I've done in the 5 I've been in it. And by the way, and we're going to talk through this as well. Every agent that has a listing that I'm going to make a call or make an offer on, or every agent that calls me and makes an offer on one of mine, I go and I look up their last 12 months. I don't care how long they've been doing this. If in the last 12 months they've done 4 homes, they're not equipped to compete with me. I'm going to get everything I want for my clients out of this because I know what's going on in the market. I do it every day. They don't. Right? I had 4 closings in the last 2 months. They have 0. I know what's going on right now. They don't. Okay. All right. And by the way, I'm not going to stand, like I jacked up my ankle playing basketball a couple weeks ago. So I was in a walking boot until yesterday. So I'm not going to stand. That's why I'm sitting right here. So apologize about that. Okay. So have any of you guys been through these courses already? These ones that are above here? Some of you have. Okay. I will tell you everything that goes on here, every training, CE course, whatever it is, can be valuable to you. However, don't let coming to CE courses and trainings be a distraction from getting out and trying to generate business, right? Be really smart about how you use the two. If you're going to come to something, make sure that it's something that's really going to help you get things going. Today, we're going over negotiate offers. So negotiating is not something to be avoided or feared. It's an everyday part of life. The reason that I think that most people are not great negotiators is because most people view negotiation as confrontation. They view it as this like opposing force, okay? And it's not what it is, right? It's not about a confrontation. The agents that are on the other side of transactions from me, the end of the deal, they think we're buddies. They think we're best friends. They think I helped them make something happen. Oftentimes, they have no idea that they did everything that we wanted to, and the things that we gave them were things that didn't matter to us. But we used those to get what we wanted. All right? And that's really the art of this, is getting what I want and having to give up as little or nothing to get it as I can. Okay, so let's talk about this. These are the Keller Williams, I'm trying to remember what they call them. Not core values, I can't remember. But I'm going to speak a little bit of blasphemy. Win-win or no deal is total crap. I don't care if it's a win for the agent and the client on the other side of the transaction. I don't work for them. Right? I am employed by one party here. So as long as I do everything ethically, I don't lie, break the law, all that kind of stuff, I am allowed to use all of my skills and powers of manipulation to benefit my client. There's nothing wrong with that. Okay? It doesn't need to be a win-win. It doesn't even need to be a win-win for me and my client, because if it's a win for my client, it's a win for me, right? Our goals and desires should be absolutely aligned. I am doing whatever is in the best interest of my client. There's not oh, I'm not going to do this because that hurts me, right? I just closed a transaction and we negotiated the price down $150,000. My client was willing to pay list price. We're going to talk through that in a minute. But they were willing to pay list price. I saved them 150 grand. On a 3% commission, that's 4,500 bucks I cost myself. So it is, what's more valuable, $150,000 to my client or 4,500 bucks to me? My client's never going to go to anybody else. No one makes that happen. Okay, and the home had been on the market for 5 days, by the way. But okay, so win-win or no deal. I just want like you to know that that's kind of not a thing. You are gunning for a win for your client. That's the most important thing above all else. Because if you put your client's needs first, you won't have to worry about consistent business. You won't have to worry about sustainable commission amounts. The commission will come if you put your clients first and if you go get wins for them. Okay, so these are the two traditional paths to getting under contract, I guess, okay? So the way that most agents want this to happen, realistically, the way most of them want it to happen, whether the buyer's agent or the seller's agent, doesn't matter. Most want there to be an offer and someone accepts it. That's it. That's what they want to happen, okay? If you make an offer and it's accepted, what does that mean? let's say you're the buyer's agent, okay? You make an offer and it's accepted. What does that mean? Not too low. If the seller accepts it,
Oh, but yeah, if you're on the other side, if you offer.
yeah. So if you're the buyer's agent, and you make an offer and it's accepted, you paid more than you should, right? Okay. Same for seller. If you accepted without countering anything, even verbally, then there's more that you could have gotten that you didn't, whether it's price or something else. Okay. This is the way it typically goes, right? This doesn't happen a ton, but it does happen more than it should. Okay. The way it typically goes is you're the buyer's agent, you make an offer, and it says rejected or countered. You won't get an offer rejected very often. They may not respond or just tell you like, no, if you want to adjust your offer, you can, but we're not accepting this, right? But usually what will happen is you'll get your offer countered. In the current market, homes aren't flying off the shelf. If you make an offer on a home, I would say 8 out of 10 times, you're probably the only offer. Almost never are they just going to reject or ignore you. They'll counter you if they have to. Okay. So after that counter happens, there's some negotiation that goes on. Then there's a counter sent, whether it's a verbal counter or a written counter. Okay. A lot of this happens verbally. And then it's accepted or rejected or whatever, we get through to close. Okay. So what I want to like dispel for you real quick is the notion of where the negotiation is. Okay, so here in this timeline that we've got written out, and by the way, I didn't make this presentation. Negotiation happens when on this timeline? After the offer is made, right? Not only after the offer is made, it's after the seller has responded. That's when the negotiation happens. Okay. Let's say, Cami, right? Cami, let's say you're showing a home today. Your client likes it, and you're going to make an offer tomorrow. When does negotiation begin?
After receive your response from the seller's agent.
Okay. Okay. So Cammy's saying that the negotiation begins after we've seen it, we make an offer, and we get a response from the seller, right?
I mean, I assume you prepare a negotiation beforehand, like, you kind of like, this is what we're gonna offer, this is potentially what we're willing to negotiate before you go into it, but.
Okay.
I don't know.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, how would you know, right? Like, I haven't done this before.
On the night before and get that price down as low as I can before I write the initial offer.
Okay. So I'll tell you, for me, the negotiation begins the second that I know whether my client likes it, I start doing homework. Okay. Here's some of the things I do. Like I said, I pull, do any of you guys have access to the MLS already? Okay. So you do. Okay. Did you know you can look up someone's transaction history? Okay. No one does that. I don't know why, but no one does that. You should. Why should you?
Shows it's been on the market before and withdrawn.
Well, so that you're talking about the history of the listing. I'm talking about the agent.
Then if they sold a lot or not, they might get that money.
Yep. I mean, for you in football terms, this is like not watching film. Like that's what's happening, right? Yeah, you're going to play a game. Yeah, you're going to make an offer on a home, but like who am I going back and forth with? It's the agent on the other side. It's not the sellers. It's the agent. You guys have no idea how much influence the agent has on what their clients will accept. It's crazy. Some of the things that you can get an agent to get their clients to do for you if you do it right. Okay. But so the first thing that I'm going to do, the negotiation begins by looking up who I'm dealing with. Okay. So for example, we just went under contract on Monday on a listing, and the agent on the other side, she called me, her clients liked it. So we started talking. The first thing I do is look her up, and I see that she's done 25 transactions in the last year. She knows her stuff. She knows what she's doing. Okay. She knows her value probably to her clients. And she's a good agent. I've interacted with her a little bit before, but I'd never really looked her up because I just had met her here and there. But so it's helpful for me to know the situation that she's in, right? Okay, so you look that up. Now, after I do that, I know who I'm dealing with. That helps me know how to approach this agent on the other side. Now, the next step of the negotiation is I make a phone call. I don't text. I do text, but that should never be a text. Do you know why I don't want to text the agent and ask them questions or let them know I'm going to be making an offer, all of that stuff? Why do I do that in a phone call? Too easy to ignore. Okay. Boom. Okay. It is too easy to take time to sit back and craft a response and think about all the possible responses to that if you do it through a text. I'm trying to catch people with their pants down. I'm trying to catch them off guard when they don't have time to think about what they should and should not say to me. Because what am I looking for in this conversation? As a buyer, as a buyer's agent who has a buyer that is interested, what am I looking for in this conversation?
Leverage.
What'd you say?
Leverage.
I'm looking for leverage. Okay, so the first thing I do is I call that agent, and am I telling them my client likes this? We think we want to make an offer. What's the point of this phone call? It's to get leverage, and how do I do that?
Ask questions. Find out as much as you can.
So I'll tell you, most successful, I guess I should qualify, but most successful agents like to talk. You can tell I like to talk, right? They like to talk. And some of them just can't help themselves. And they'll tell you things they absolutely should not tell you. Because, like you mentioned, looking them up because you don't know if they need that commission check, right? They haven't done a lot of business recently. They need that check. Okay? Unfortunately, too many agents think with their wallet, not their clients. They want this transaction to close. They want it to be done. They want to get that commission check. So what makes things easier for them is telling me things that I need to know. Right? So I have a home that we just sold in Linden a couple months ago. And we'd been on the market for 65 days, no offers. Okay, we were listed at 1.5 million bucks. No offers in 65 days. Decent amount of showings. But there was one house on the corner that was like an older home and then a cul-de-sac of nice homes. This is older home, and it really was off-putting to a lot of people. Agent calls me or tells me he's sending an offer, sends me the offer. I hadn't even presented it to my clients. It was low. It was like 150 grand low, so like 1.35. Before I even presented to my clients, I'm like, hey, great, thanks for the offer. I'll present it to him. I'll tell you, I don't think this is going to fly. These guys don't have to move. And the first thing he says is, oh, you know, honestly, counter us at whatever. My clients will accept it. They love this home. They do have a home they need to sell, but we're going to be listing that at 1.5, but they're, you know, they can go all the way down to 1.3 to make it happen. Guess who had a client looking for what he was going to list on their house? And guess who just told me that my clients can save $200,000 on his listing? What an idiot. Like, there's no other word for it, right? He's clearly not thinking of his clients. He's clearly not putting them first. He just wants this to go. And he's a good agent, by the way. He's like a high producing agent. Maybe he just wants them off of his plate. But within seconds, he sacrificed up to $350,000 for his clients. 200 on their listing, 150 on ours. We ended up closing at 1,495, so $5,000 below list on the sale of the listing that I had. My clients didn't end up making an offer on his, but had they liked it enough to make an offer, he had told me that they would accept $200,000 below their list price. And it's because I got him on the phone and he wanted to get it done, right? So look him up, have that conversation. I'm looking for leverage. I'm asking questions like, hey, so my clients, I think they're interested. They asked me to do a little bit of homework. We're seeing some other homes. So I'm not like making them feel too confident, right? Making her feel too confident, whoever the listing agent is. they like this, but I do have some questions for you. And then you ask basic questions about the home. Hey, can you tell me about this? Do you know how old the roof is? So it sounds like we're still trying to figure out if we even like this enough to make an offer. And then also, what's the seller's situation? Where are they going? Why are they selling? You wouldn't believe the amount of idiots that will tell you, oh, they're getting divorced. Awesome. They have to sell. They can't afford for it to take 4 months, right? And you know what's even better when it's a divorce situation? If I make an offer to you and your husband and I want $40,000 off the list price, that's $40,000 off the list price. $40,000 for you. If you're getting divorced, that's not $40,000. That's 20 for you and 20 for him. It's way easier to negotiate, right? So these are all things that help me as a buyer. I'm asking these questions, trying to line this up. The agent doesn't even know we're negotiating yet, and we're negotiating. Okay, it's all about making people feel good because then they start to open up. So I use phrases like, oh, I'm sure you already know this, right? You're experienced enough. You've done this, blah, blah, blah. I see they've done 3 transactions in the last year. I know they're part-time. Be like, oh man, like, I mean, you know what you're doing. You listed it at such a great price. You did an awesome job with the photos. And I'm just buttering them up because they're like, oh yeah, I am good. Okay, and then they'll start to tell you things that maybe they shouldn't tell you. But negotiation happens the minute you know if your client wants that home or is interested in that home. That's when you start negotiating in your homework and everything that you do. And there are other things that you can do too, and we'll talk through some of that as well. Okay, this is the hardest part of negotiation for a realtor. If this is me, and I'm the buyer's agent right here, who am I? Well, sorry, let's back up. The buyer is the one buying it, the seller's the one selling it. So they are the ones negotiating, right? They're negotiating, but neither of them gets to talk to each other. So they're trusting me as the buyer's agent to negotiate on their behalf, but I don't get to talk to the seller either. So it's this weird game of telephone where I communicate with my clients what we want, what we're going to try to get, and how we're going to try to get it. And then I have to get with the agent on the other side and sell them on how to go and get what I want. So I've got to make them believe what I need them to believe to be able to get what we want from this person. Okay, it's this can potentially be convoluted and distorted and often unsuccessful game of telephone. Okay. The coolest thing, so how many of you guys have done a sales job before? Okay, real estate is sales. The only person I don't have to sell anything to is my own client. I don't care what home they buy. I don't need to sell them on this house that I'm showing them. I don't care. Do you want it? And now I use my sales skills to go and sell the listing agent on my client, on our offer, on why they should bring the price down, on why they should repair this thing, on why they should give us the timeline we want, on why they should pay the HOA transfer fee, right? That's where I use my sales skills. My sales skills are employed here. And in so doing, I'm selling him on how to then go and sell his client on what I want. Okay, but make no mistake, this is a sales job. The only thing I don't sell is a house. I'm selling little pieces of negotiating points to the agent on the other side. Okay, anybody have any questions or anything so far? Okay, it's a little overwhelming. It is, because most people don't think about it this way. They just don't. Most people don't think about the fact that, okay, my client wants the price down. I've got to get them to agree to get the price down, but I've got to get this person to believe that the price should come down so he can then go and convince them the price needs to come down. And how do you do that? Okay, so let's talk about the points that you will generally be negotiating on. One is price and everything money related. Okay? And this is usually where people focus. So let's go back to like 2020 and 2021. What was going on in the market? What kind of market was it in 2021? It was a seller's market. Everything was going nuts, right? You heard about like 20 offers on a home, right? Okay, so that's what that was like. When you've got 10, 20 offers on a home, Or let's say you're making an offer on a home that's got 10 offers on it. What do you do to try to win? What does everyone typically do? You try to offer more money, right? But there's only so much money you can get for a house, right? Because how many of you guys are aware of, like, how many of you own a home? I guess I should ask. Okay, a couple of you. Do you guys remember the appraisal? Do you remember how that played a role in your purchase? What does the appraisal have to do with the purchase?
Thing. You stick for it, so when they hypothetically take that asset from you when you default, that's what they're picking up.
Okay, how can that affect a transaction?
It could throw off the, I mean, I don't know personally, I've never been.
Okay.
With a transaction that's completely far off, but maybe if the appraisal's way off from the sales price that you agree upon, that might hurt or pause or stall the deal somehow.
Okay.
I was basically gonna say something similar, like the appraisal could say that the house is worth more or less than what the sales price is. That affects how you negotiate or what, the buyer's like, if the buyer finds out, oh, this is actually like, the worth of this actual property is way lower than what they're asking for. You can use that as leverage, I guess, in your negotiation.
Okay.
It's like an FHA, hypothetically, they bring more down payment.
So that's every loan, by the way. Yep. So if the appraisal is below the list, below the contract price, then there's a dollar amount gap that is there. So let's say you're under contract at $700,000 and you're doing 20% down. Okay. The bank is assuming they're going to be loaning you $560,000 because you're paying 140. Okay, the 20%. Let's say it appraises at 680. You got a $20,000 gap now because they're assuming you're doing a 20% down of 680. Now there's a $20,000 gap. Something's got to happen. Okay, and one of four things happens. Either the seller lowers the price to that appraised value. The buyer and the seller meet in the middle. The buyer brings extra cash at closing on top of down payment, on top of closing costs. And then the seller reduces it some. The third option is the buyer pays the full difference in cash at closing on top of down payment and closing costs. The fourth is that no one will budge and everybody walks away. The seller doesn't have to adjust the price, just so you know that.
If you bring extra cash, that goes straight into equity, like how would that work?
No, you basically are upside down right off the bat, day one. You paid $700 for something that's only worth $680. You're upside down right off the bat, right? Now, if you're going to have this home for 20 years, it'll even out and doesn't matter, but you don't want to pay more for something than it's worth. But so that's why price can, price going up, just the highest bidder doesn't necessarily actually make the seller any more money. Because most people in most markets outside of 2020 and 2021, when there were crazy rates and they were low and we're helping people and people were paying cash over, usually people aren't going to pay more than an appraisal, than an appraised value, unless there's something about the property that has people really wanting to compete for it and there's a bunch of offers. All right. So that's why price, it's only one part of the negotiation. It's only one part of this transaction. Right? Now, it's the most important part, but it's not the only part. There are so many other terms in the REPC, the real estate purchase contract. There's so many terms in there that can be negotiated and that matter to a seller and matter to a buyer. So when I call a listing agent, because my buyer likes the home, so I've already called them once. By the way, I don't ever tell a listing agent the first time I talk to them that we're considering making an offer. That call, hey, my client, I think they like it. We're seeing some other homes, just trying to figure some things out. Can you answer a few questions for me? Right? That's that first call. Then we're done. I call back later, either that same day, the next day, whatever, say, hey, we're thinking about putting an offer together. Outside of price, what are the things that matter to your client? And I say outside of price because you know what's going to happen every time. Hey, what's the most important thing to your client? Price. Come on. Oh, you know net? Well, of course net is the most important thing to them. Like that's why this is all happening. So I don't even address that. I say, okay, outside of price, because I'm not going to bring that up with them right now. Outside of price, what's the most important thing to your client? What's that? Okay, it can be, right? So I have a home that we're closing tomorrow, and we got everything we wanted because we gave them what they wanted, which was they had to be closing by the 31st of October because their new home is done the 31st of October. And every day that they don't close on it, they're paying like $400. Okay, so they wanted the timeline. We gave them the timeline and we got what we wanted in exchange for it because my client she was happy to close that fast. She didn't care. Okay, so that's one. The timeline is one. Okay, what are some other things in the Rep C that are like can be negotiation points? Parts of a transaction. Have you guys read through the purchase contract?
Like that, like,
What?
and not appurtenances, like, I don't know, like somebody's like, oh, there's a gorgeous chandelier in here.
Oh, like inclusions.
Inclusions, thank you.
Okay, I was like appurtenances. I
Sorry,
don't know
not
what that
appurtenances.
is.
Those come with the land. That's not what I meant.
Yeah. Yeah, so inclusions, exclusions, that kind of stuff, right? That's absolutely a negotiating point for sure. I always ask for the refrigerator, every home. Not because my clients always want the refrigerator, but no one wants to not be able to buy groceries until the third day of moving in, right? So I always ask for the fridge. Sometimes it's a no, we negotiate on it, but yeah, inclusions. So I've got a home we just went under contract a few days ago, and we're including everything. Like all furniture, all decor, there's like 3 things that we're excluding. Okay, so that's part of how we got the price we wanted. Okay, what other things can you negotiate in there? Okay, some repairs. So generally in like the purchase contract, it doesn't address repairs. That comes after like your inspection and due diligence. That's where you typically negotiate that. But that for sure is something you will negotiate on all the time. Repairs or not repairs, because I don't want them to repair it because they'll do it cheap and fast and easy. And I want a good repair, so I sometimes will negotiate a credit instead, right? I'll get bids to fix this thing and I'll fix it, but I want you to pay for it, right?
Be like seller financing or loan assumption.
Yeah, I would. That doesn't happen a lot. Not as much as people would like it to happen. Because usually, and just so you guys know why that doesn't happen a lot, it can help you get the price that you want, but most people, if they're buying a new home, they need their equity to be able to pay their down payment and closing costs. They can't afford, because most people are doing seller financing, they're typically bringing like 10% maybe down, and that's typically not enough for people that are like upgrading a home, right? I'm selling this at 600, I'm buying a home at 900, I need 20% down, I need 180. Your 10%, $60,000 doesn't help me, right? So you may have clients that want to make seller finance offers, that kind of stuff, and you will. It's not super common, unfortunately. I wish it was. Okay, so there are so many other things that you can negotiate in here, okay? So one is closing cost concessions, okay? That often is included in the offer. And the reason that's often included in the offer is because, are you guys familiar with, anybody been in the lending industry, mortgage industry at all? So are you guys familiar with what a 2-1 buy down is? Do you know what that is yet? So everyone knows about buying your rate down, right? What are we thinking will happen with rates over the next couple of years? We think it'll come down, okay? It may not, but we think rates will probably come down. How much? Who the heck knows? Okay, so a long-term buy down, let's say you spend $7,000 and it saves you $100 a month. How many months do you have to have that before you've made back your $7,000? 70, right? 70 months before. That's longer than we're hoping it takes for rates to come down to a point where you can refi. So let's say you refi in 24 months. That remaining 50 or 46 months of interest that was already paid for is gone. Like it's wasted, that money that was paid. Yeah, maybe you got the seller to pay for it for you, but it's gone. So a 2-1 buy down is what we've been doing on most every home that my clients have been buying, which it slams all those interest savings to the first 2 years. Year 1, your interest rate is 2% lower. Year 2, it's 1% lower. So I have a client we just closed on a $600,000 home. Their payment in year 1 is like $600 less a month than it would have been at their full rate. Year 2, it's like $300 less. So if they refinance in that 2-year window, the remaining interest that was already paid for by the seller can get wrapped back in as a credit to cover your loan costs. So it's not so much wasted and sunk, right? And it's basically just try to help us weather the storm of the crappy rates, right? And the reason we ask for that at the beginning is because most listing agents, hopefully, are at least adept and aware enough of what's going on in the market that they know this is a normal thing that people are asking for. They're prepared for it. Whether they prepared their client for it is different. And that's why you want to ask all these questions. Say, hey, we're going to be making an offer. Have you already discussed with your client the possibility of us asking for a 2-1? And generally it's about like 2% of the purchase price in cost. So if they're buying a $600,000 house, it's probably going to cost like anywhere between 11 and 13,000 bucks, and the seller's can pay it. Only the seller can pay it. Okay. But those are things when it comes to concessions that we're asking for right off the bat. Okay. Other things, HOA transfer fees. This one that I'm selling, it's 0.25% of the purchase price. That's the transfer fee amount. So it's like 3,400 bucks. So stupid. There's some that are 0.5%. No, sorry, that one's 1,700 bucks. There are some that are 0.5% of the purchase price, and that would have been like 3,400 bucks. Okay, most I would say are between like 500 and 750, but occasionally you run into these HOA transfer fees that are high. It's a way for them to pad their cash reserves. But again, are we going to offer to pay that as the buyer? Are we going to offer to split it? Is the seller going to pay it? There are additional addenda that can have anything. So there's the blank addendum to the real estate purchase contract. That's my playground. That's where I win. Because I put crap in there that no one's ever seen, and it's the best because it confuses the hell out of them. And I have agents call me all the time. It's like, hey, explain this to me. And I explain it very vaguely. They agree to it. And then like 3 days later, I get a call from them, be like, hey, we really misunderstood this. I'm like, yeah, I know you did. And that's in my favor. Okay, and I'll talk through what some of those things are. But literally, you can negotiate on anything. I've negotiated for a Harley that was in the garage one time. Okay, you can negotiate to include furnishings, exclude furnishings. Right off the bat in an offer once, we negotiated that they were going to replace the roof before closing. Just right off the bat. Because it was a wood shingle roof, shake shingle roof. Those are expensive and no one will insure them either. Okay, so there's lots of stuff that you can address to get what you want. The best way to do this, in my experience, is find something you don't care about or your client doesn't care about. They're fine not having, but doesn't necessarily cost you. And make it something that the seller is really going to care about. Okay, for example, let's talk new builds. Any of you guys worked with builders yet? Okay, so Edge Homes, they work with First Colony Mortgage. First Colony's rates suck. I love a lot of loan officers at First Colony. They're really good dudes. My buddy's dad started the company, but their rates are always high. Their fees are high. That's how they can afford to give these great lender incentives to these builders. Okay. So you get this great lender incentive, but then you're paying higher rate and higher payment. It doesn't save you any money. So I figured out a couple of years ago that if we would offer more earnest money, we could get the same lender incentive from the builder, but use whoever we wanted for financing. So I would go to my mortgage broker right over here on 800 North Superior Lending. We'd get way better rates, way cheaper upfront costs, and still get the lender incentive because my client was willing to pay more earnest money. They're buying the house anyway. The earnest money is not a cost. It's already going towards the purchase. It's a no lose. So finding ways that you can give up something that doesn't cost you to get something that you want, that's what we're going to work on here. Okay, identifying those isn't always easy. Okay, so these are the 3 steps to making an offer and negotiating. All right. The first is prepare. And there's a lot of different ways that you need to prepare for this, by the way. We're already getting so close on time. This is crazy. Did they tell you this is a 1 hour? 2? Okay, perfect. I never know what the expectation they set. The first is prepare. So let's say, remind me your name. Trey. So let's say, Trey, we went and saw a house, okay? You tell me you like it. How am I going to prepare to make an offer and negotiate? What am I going to do as the agent?
Figure out what I like in the house, figure out what we need to keep, like see if we need to get the price down, see if we need to get the roof redone, whatever.
Exactly. So the first thing I'm doing is prepare with my own client, right? I need to know what is important to you here. Does this home make sense at its list price? Even if the answer is yes, I'm going to get the price down, right? But at the list price, does the payment work? So I need to communicate with the lender. Get them this home, get them everything that's going on, HOA. Hey, where does this put their payment? Come back to you. Trey, we just got that estimate from Miles. Miles says that your payment will land about here. Your HOA is 125 on top. Does this work? No, it doesn't. Okay, where does it need to be? I need it to be 2,800 bucks. I can't do the 3,100. Okay, let's figure out what we'd need to do to get it to 2,800. Go back to Miles. Miles, What does a 2-1 put us? What does a long-term buy down put us at? What about if we attack the price? And by the way, right now with rates being high and sucky, if you have $30,000 to negotiate, $30,000 off the purchase price is probably saving you $200 a month, maybe. But if I can take that $30,000 and buy your rate down, we're probably saving way more than $200 a month. Okay, so it's really a situation where you need to be smart and understand how those things work, but also interact with the lender to say, hey, how can we get the best bang for our buck? This home looks like it's ripe for some negotiating. They've been on the market 74 days. They've never had an offer. They're moving out of state. They have to sell it. So I'm going to negotiate here. Mr. Lender, Miles, that's my lender, Miles. What's the best way for us to use what I think we can probably get 30 grand off of this? What's the best way for me to use that to help Trey? Okay, that's the first step, is preparing with my own client, but also setting proper expectations. You guys, at the end of a transaction, the results can be the same. D'Angelo can buy this house for 700 grand. Trey can buy this house for 700 grand. Trey's pissed. D'Angelo's thrilled. What's the difference? The outcome is the same. The only thing that's different is their expectations going in. So my job is to set proper expectations. I tell my clients that no one's going to fight harder or negotiate better. And I absolutely believe that. I tell my clients all the time, if I couldn't get it for you, no one could have. There may be some out there that could. But I work with those agents on the other side of transactions. I know they aren't negotiating harder than I am and being craftier about how they're doing than I am. But the expectation I set is not that I'm going to get them everything that they want. The expectation I set is, hey, I'm going to do whatever we can to get whatever we can. I'm not going to promise you what I can get you. Because let's say they should do this, the seller should do this, they're in this situation. That doesn't mean that they're always rational and ready to play ball, right? And sometimes, hey, they're not willing to budge. I've done everything I can, they're not willing to budge. This is what it's going to have to be if you want this house. Do you want this house? I am absolutely happy to move on and let's go find someone who's ready to negotiate. And then you leave it up to your clients at that point. Okay, but that's the expectation I set in preparation is, hey, here's what I think I can probably make happen. I'm going to try to get this. I'm going to try to do this. Here's how I'm going to do it. This makes the payment work for you, the price work for you, the repairs, whatever it's going to be. I'm going to go and work to get this. You need to be ready for what if we don't get that. I'm never going to tell you you should buy a house. I will tell you the situation of, okay, well, if we want this house, we may have to do this. Do we want to do that, or should we move on and find something else? And that's okay too. But if you're going to say that, you need to mean it. You need to be okay with them moving on. You need to be okay with this taking another 2 months, 3 months for them to buy a house. You need to be okay showing them 30 more homes, right? I tell my clients all the time, your timeline is my timeline. I don't have a timeline. I don't need you to buy in a year. I don't need you to buy in 30 days, 60 days. My timeline is your timeline. Okay, but then your actions need to show that, right? The things you encourage them to do or not do needs to show that. This home we just got under contract, we listed it last Wednesday. My clients wanted to list at 665. I told them I thought that there was a gap in the market in this area where we listed this, and we could list higher. And I encouraged them to list at 692,500. So $7,500 more. The wife was freaking out. She's like, we can't do that. I'm just going to be a nervous wreck. The husband loved it, right? It's like, yeah, more money, I'm in. Their son's an appraiser, told them they should probably list at 665. So I'm like, look, we'll do whatever you want. You hired me to make you money. I'm not desperate or urgent. How desperate or urgent are you? I think we can get this. 4 days, 5 days, 4 or 5 days later, we're under contract at full list price. Okay. So if I'm going to tell them something, I need to mean it, right? I don't have a timeline. You have the timeline. So that's the first preparation, is with my own client. Second step of preparing is that phone call to the listing agent, right? It's looking them up and finding out who they are. How much business do they do? Where do they do their business? So if it's a listing agent and the home is in Spanish Fork and I see all the rest of their businesses in Ogden, This is way out of their area. That doesn't necessarily mean anything. Listings you don't have to go to all the time if you're the listing agent, but that agent probably would love to have it off their plate, right? To not even have to worry about it. So, okay, let me help them out. So that's the other part that you prepare is I'm asking them questions, finding out the situation, the scenario. This one I told you about that we just closed and we got it 150 below list price. It was listed at 1.4. We saw it the second day it was listed. The fifth day it was on the market. We went under contract at $125,000 below list. 5 days on the market. If you're a listing agent and your client accepts an offer $125,000 below list, 5 days on the market, you suck. Either you really overpriced it, which you shouldn't have done, or you're not helping them. Either you gave away leverage when you talked to the agent, or you're not helping them step back and really be rational and try to get them as much as they can get. Okay, and the way that I did that was this. I had a buddy that lived kind of in the vague neighborhood that they were in. So I called him and said, hey, do you know the Morgans? It's like, oh yeah, they're selling their house. I'm like, they are. Do you know why they're selling their house? He's like, yeah. So he just tells me everything that's going on. And guess what? They have to sell. And they probably want it to go faster rather than slower. So that's leverage on our part, right? They had overlisted it by a little bit, but not much, maybe like 25 grand to where I probably would have listed it. My clients were prepared to pay full list price, 1.4. We got under contract at 1.3 with $25,000 in concessions right off the bat. And then we negotiated another $25,000 in concessions after our due diligence. So literally my clients closed with 150 grand below net for the seller. 5 days in, again. And this happened because I did this. A lot of times what I'll do is I'm walking out of a home. If I see neighbors around and I think my client kind of likes this home, I go talk to the neighbors. Hey, tell me about the neighborhood. I make it seem like I'm interested in the neighborhood. Hey, these are my clients. They're looking at this house. Tell me about the neighborhood. What do you like about it? Blah, 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 blah. By the way, do you know the seller? Yeah, why are they moving? So I casually drop that in. Again, I'm just trying to get every bit of leverage that I can here. And I have had an agent on my team who he won't do it. He just won't do it. Makes him uncomfortable. And so he won't do it. Great. His clients are paying more than my clients. Right? And my clients are going to come back to me next time. Okay, so once you've done all the preparation, you've done all the research, you know what's going on, you've run comps, you know where it should be listed, what you think the appraisal will come at. 2 is now I'm going to present this. So when I call well, let me just dial back a second. So remember your name? Andrew. So your client says, I want to make an offer. You draft the offer. Then what do? I've got the offer. It's signed. Guys, please don't ever send an offer to an agent that you haven't talked to give them a heads up as to what they're about to get. Okay, because let's say you are the listing agent and you're about to get this offer that's going to look, I won't say offensive, but like not exciting, right? The price is lower, or they're asking for a lot in concessions, or maybe the timeline sucks. Maybe they're asking for like a 60-day close. Okay, or maybe they're pushing their finance and appraisal deadline way out, so their earnest money is refundable for a long time. When you are the listing agent and you get a call saying, hey, I'm about to send you an offer, just wanted to kind of walk you through what's in there before you get it. What do you think as the listing agent in that moment, do you think? Okay, maybe. What else? That's the biggest thing. You want this agent on the other side to think you are going to make their life easy. Okay, and this phone call tells them they're communicative. They won't be hard to interact with. They won't be hard to get a hold of, right? but also they clearly know what they're doing. Okay, I hate when I get an email with an offer in my inbox. I've never even spoken to this person. And I just think, dude, you just put a 30-day close in here. All you had to do was ask me and I could have told you we can't close for 45 days. And that's something that generally probably didn't really matter to your client. So why didn't you just ask me? So again, same kind of thing when I call and say, hey, we got this offer together. Before I send it, what do you guys need on timeline? We can close. My clients are open. We can close anytime in the next 60 days. Do you want it a little longer or do you want a traditional 30-day close? Right? There are little things I can ask them. They're sort of like a professional courtesy. And if I can save them having one more bullet item to counter us on, then that helps, right? Again, it helps them look better to their client. I'm trying to help them look like they are doing their job. So I say that all the time to listing agents, say, hey, help me help you out here. What kind of timeline does your seller need? What's their situation? Oh, they're actually closing on, they need to close by October 31st because that's when their new home will be done. Okay. Yeah, I think we can do that. I don't ever commit to. I know we can do that, but I'm not going to say it on the phone the first time. I think we can do that. Let me talk to the lender. Let me talk to my client. They may not be thrilled about going that fast, but let me find out. Because why am I doing this? I'm trying to create something that the seller thinks I don't want to give so that I can then give it to get something they don't want to give. Right? It's tricky. Yeah, Andrew.
What do you do if you have the offer already, you call the agent and they don't answer? Do you hold off until you can talk to them? Or do you?
I will text them. They'll always call back if you text them and say, hey, I've got the bones of an offer put together. Just wanted to get like a couple specifics from you on what your seller wants. Again, I'm making this seem like, hey, let me help you. What can I do for you, right? Hey, just want to get a few specifics on what your seller wants so we can make this a little bit easier. Can you give me a call? Okay, you'll get a call back from that every time. I say that. That's not true. There are some agents that straight up, they won't talk to you on the phone. We have a couple here at this office that do a lot of business. They won't talk. Becca Summers, have you guys heard of or met Becca Summers? She does a lot of business. She won't talk on the phone. It's probably smart of her. Because that's where I get people to tell me things they shouldn't, is on the phone, right? But there are some agents that won't. But by and large, when you say, hey, I've got an offer ready for you, just want to clarify a couple things before I send it, can you call me? They'll call you. 9 times out of 10, they'll call you. Okay, and again, this is where I'm building a relationship with them. And what you want to do with both your clients and agents on the other side is I want to sort of like match, because you can tell, like I'm talkative, I'm outgoing, I'm generally pretty upbeat. I'm one of those annoying people that just doesn't have bad days. But that annoys the hell out of some people. So I want to get them on the phone so I can feel their vibe real quick so I can match it. Same with clients. I have clients that are very subdued, very introverted. They aren't real outgoing, don't talk a whole lot. So I really lower the energy level when I interact with those guys. I'm going to be a chameleon here. I'm going to interact with people however I think I need to best connect with them and communicate with them. And I've had people tell me, well, that's fake. Great. You be your authentic self. I'll go get your business. Right? Like I can adapt. And it's not that I'm telling people any different things. It's the way I'm communicating it is all that's going to change, right? I would rather never be my real self with my clients and with agents on the other side and be able to be myself doing everything I want to because I've got the income that I want because I'm doing lots of business. Okay, but this is part of that. I've got to try to feel them out so I can interact the way that they want to. Some agents, you can tell within 30 seconds, they want to be in charge. They want to feel like the pro and like they're dictating everything. Great, dude. I'll let you think, oh man, yeah, we can do whatever you want. Oh, I'm so sorry. Like my client really feels strongly about this. My client, maybe I made them feel strongly about this. Right? But now they do. So now I'm telling you they do, right? So I'm going to use my clients as an excuse a lot. Hey, I know this isn't as high as your sellers were hoping for. You know, I think you did a great job pricing it, the value, I'm sure it's there. This is just what works for them. They can't make it any higher than that. But maybe I talked them into not wanting it to work at a higher price. right? So I'm going to make that phone to the agent, prepare them for what's about to come, ask a few specifics, just like professional courtesy. Let me make your life easier because these things I can't. This is what my client wants. Sorry. And then I really need to like massage that with the agent and just like inch them. And every situation is different. Every agent is different. I had an agent that there was multiple offers already. They already had like 9 or 10 offers. This is back in 2021. They already had 9 or 10 offers. We were coming in and my client couldn't, she just straight up told me their highest offer. And we couldn't do it. We got the house because I annoyed the living hell out of her for 3 days over that weekend. Hey, what else can we do? Blah, blah, blah. And I knew. She's real talkative. She would text back every time. Great. So I'm going to stay in constant contact. I'm going to be on her brain and she's going to think, man, Cody's the best. Cody's going to make my life easy. He's going to make sure this closes. But some, they don't ever want me to talk to them. Great. I'm just going to email you. Okay. But that's what I'm going to do from that moment until we get under contract. Okay. So the prepare part is, we already talked about this, right? These two are the most important part. All right, what am I trying to accomplish here? And understanding my client. It's so important that you guys know what is important to your client. You can't just be like, okay, well, you know, this home's only been on the market 3 days, so if we want it, we're probably going to have to offer list price. Why? Right? But also, I have clients who the negotiating, the haggling, the going back and forth, it makes them so uncomfortable. Makes them so nervous. So I almost keep them out of it. I tell them, hey, I'm going to do what I can to get the price down, right? So I'm not going to send you anything to sign for a little bit. I'm going to be going back and forth with the seller. Let me take a little bit of time to do that. Can I do that? Some just say, no, the list price works for us. Let's just do that. Okay, remember you hired me to give you advice, and whether you expect it or not, I'm going to work to save you money. That's why I'm here, or else you could have gone and hired someone that would pay you a portion of the commission back. I don't do that. You know why I don't do that? Because I save you more than that. Will you let me do that? 9 times out of 10, they want you to do that anyway. But sometimes I've had some people that are, nope, I don't want to do that. They've priced it well. Let's pay them what they're asking. Okay. But understand what's important to your client. Think ahead. My wife makes fun of me because she's pulled up next to me when I'm in my car and she's in her car before, and I'm talking to myself. Because what I do is I play out what I think the conversation will be. All right, when I say this, here's how I would respond to that. So based on that response, how would I respond to what I would respond to what I would respond, okay? I try to go like through the whole conversation of, I need to get here. To get here, how do I get there? So I try to like walk backwards. I want this thing. If they're going to give me this thing, they're probably going to want this other thing. How do I get that thing to not be as bad as they are going to want it to be? And she makes funny because I talk to myself all the time in my car. But also, if she's with me, I make her do it with me, and she hates it. So a lot of times she wants me to drive separately because she knows she's going to get into conversations that she doesn't want to. But absolutely, this is so important that you plan ahead. So I've had buyer's agents call me and say, hey, Cody, our financing appraisal deadline is tomorrow. We don't have the appraisal back. We need to push the finance and appraisal deadline. Why? Why do we need to push the finance and appraisal deadline? We don't have the appraisal back. Okay. Do you think that the appraisal is going to be a problem? Well, no. Then why do we need to push the finance and appraisal deadline? As the seller, why would I want to push that back? Do you know what happens at the finance and appraisal deadline? That's when earnest money becomes non-refundable to the buyer. So if I'm the seller, why do I want to give them more time? You've had 3 weeks. Your appraisal should be back. If it's not, that's on you. You probably ordered it late, paid for it late, whatever it may be. Why am I as a seller? Why do I want to push that back? And the agent's like, well, because we can't hit that deadline until the appraisal's back. Well, that's not true. Finance appraisal deadline means that we feel confident enough in our financing and the appraisal's value that we can move past this deadline and earns money becomes non-refundable. And she's like, okay. Sweet. So call me when you got the appraisal. And we just moved right on past the deadline. Their earnest money became non-refundable. Okay, she did not think through what my response was going to be. She did not think through the fact that we don't have to agree to this. And not only do we not have to agree to it, it actually is not in our interest as a seller to do that. So if they want us to do that, they've got to give me something. Okay, you want to make half of your earnest money non-refundable? You want to push the deadline back, but the earnest money is non-refundable anyway? We can do that. You want to do that? Sure, let's do that. I don't care. On the flip side of that, I have a buyer that just closed 3 weeks ago. We got the finance and appraisal deadline pushed twice. The agent just said yes. They absolutely shouldn't have done that. Just said, hey, we need an extra 48 hours. And then we pushed it back another 48. So we got 4 days, 2 different extensions. And they shouldn't have done it, but they did. Okay, but I was ready for those conversations for what I thought they would say, what I would say, but didn't happen. Okay, set clear expectations. We already talked about that. Set expectations with your clients. I'm not promising you anything. All I'm promising you is I will get whatever I can get. And I have a strategy for how I do that. Okay, these are so important. These 3 right here. Okay, be informed. Know the documents, know the paperwork you're filling out and have people sign. Know what it says that protects you and does not protect you, right? You mentioned the FHA, an FHA loan, right? And an appraisal issue. Okay, did you know, and most agents know in here, but they don't remember, don't use it to their advantage, that if you use an FHA loan, you have to use the FHA addendum. In that addendum, it says so clearly that if the appraisal is below the purchase price that we're in contract for, by 1 penny even, none of the earnest money can become non-refundable to the buyer. It is all refundable. And people don't pay attention to that. So in 2021, I had all these clients making FHA offers. We would make the offer, we would commit earnest money non-refundable in addendum 1. Addendum 2 is the FHA addendum that says that no earnest money can be non-refundable if the appraisal is below the purchase price. Appraisal comes in below purchase price because everything was. Say, hey, you need to lower the price. Well, no, we don't. Okay, then we may cancel. Well, your earnest money is non-refundable. No, it's not, because the appraisal's low. So it's so important that you know your documents, know what you're having your clients sign, know how to use it to your advantage, but also obey the laws, right? Be informed. To me, that's more market-wise, right? Like know how to run good comps, know how to have an idea of where the appraisal will be, right? All that kind of stuff. Know what your options are in terms of financing and stuff. I have stuff that we've made happen on transactions that nobody makes happen. And I have listing agents tell me all the time, you can't do that. Yes, we can. Lenders don't allow that. Yes, they do. Because the way I write it, happen. So for example, on a conventional loan, you are limited to get a credit from the seller up to 3% of the purchase price, okay? So if I'm buying a home at $600,000, well, I'll just use this scenario. I have a client that we bought a home at $495,000. It was listed at $510,000. They were using a conventional loan. Our maximum amount of credit should have been right around $15,000. We closed with a $62,000 concession from the seller. Most agents will tell you you can't do that. You can. When it says be informed, know how to do the things that you want to do and find out if they even work ahead of time. Okay, I have a lender that we work with, and he and I have figured out how to get this stuff pushed through in a way that underwriters will approve. And it's not tricky. It's just we're wording it in a way that the underwriter likes, basically. Okay. Did any of you guys have any questions about any of this stuff yet? Concerns? Ahas? Yes.
Have you ever overreached and lost a deal because you pushed too hard?
Maybe. I don't think so. Because the way that I present it, I mean, I have times where they won't accept it, and so we adjust, right? The only times I think I've lost a potential home is there are some people, buyers, sellers, that just take things personally. Some people just do. They take a low offer as like offensive, and now they won't even engage with you again going forward. I would say that's pretty rare. I don't think I've ever had that happen. Because in the times that we've pushed really hard and they've said just straight up no, there have been a bunch of those where we've adjusted and we're good. So, I mean, but maybe somewhere along the line that's happened. I'm not stupid enough to say that no, it's never happened. But again, it's important that you have that conversation with the agent so they have some context too, right? Oh, Cody's not being an a-hole. Here's the reasoning for why their offer is there. Right? Because if they have some teeth and some argument to present to their client as to why this was the offer, the very worst thing that can happen generally is that they'll counter us. If it doesn't, like, and I say that all the time, like, hey, we don't want to offend your clients. So I want to make sure that you know the reason that our offer is here. When we walked through the home, we saw this, that's going to take a lot of work, right? Or, hey, this one that we made an offer on a little bit ago, we're not buying it because the seller's not willing to be reasonable. But I called the agent. I was like, hey, Julie, I need some help here. She doesn't do a lot of business anymore. She used to. But I was like, hey, Julie, I need a little bit of help here. I'm having a really hard time getting to your list price in terms of like comps. I can't find comps to get to your list price. Can you help me out? This is a home in Linden. All the comps she sends me are in Alpine and Highland. No appraiser is going to use those. That's way too freaking far. He says, well, I've had appraisers do that. I'm like, were those homes that like had really unique features that are hard to find? She's like, yeah. Okay, I get that. This doesn't have those. And I can find 5 comps within a mile that you're skipping over to get there. I'm sorry, we're having a really hard time getting to that value. So I'm going to make you an offer, but it's going to be based on the comps that I'm able to find that are close that maybe you just bypassed. Seller wasn't willing to accept it, but they're going to have to at some point. They've already moved out. So. Okay. So again, we talked about asking questions, right? Like you got to ask the right questions. Okay. Open-ended. And I always start with really basic, easy questions that there's nothing, they can't really interpret anything nefarious. Like, hey, can you tell me how old the water heater is? Can you tell me how old the roof is? Hey, what's the timeline that you guys need? Basic stuff that like, oh, he's just asking things that don't hurt us. I'm going to tell him what we want. Right? And then I'll try to drop those questions. I'm trying to catch them, getting some info that helps us. Okay, and you see here again, it talks about win-win. You guys, we don't care about a win-win. We want to win. You want one win. Your client only. Okay, this is Sales 101. How many of you guys have done sales jobs before, did you say? A few of you? Okay, this is Sales 101. If you've never done sales, if you do not ask open-ended questions, you're going to have a really hard time navigating your clients, sellers agents, buyers agents, whatever. You're going to have a really hard time getting them to where you want them to be. Open-ended questions help you understand more about what's going on the other side of the conversation. Okay. We don't want closed-ended questions, except for there are very specific places where I need someone to agree with me. And so I will craft the question in a way that it's very clear to them that if they say no or that they disagree with me, that they're not educated and not good at what they do. So for example, I'll say things like, hey, look, you and I both know ... Because I've basically just said, if you disagree with me, it's because you're stupid. So they'll agree to something that now is in our interest, right? Once they agree with me, now I have a leg to stand on to get what I want. Okay, so that's the only place I use closed-ended questions is when I need a specific response because the thing I'm following it up with is something for me. For my client, I guess I should say. Okay. So this is actually really helpful. So with my clients say, hey, you said you want this. You want them to replace the carpet. Okay. I'm going to go to work and see what I can get. We're going to price it out. I've got my carpet guy. He's going to give us an estimate. I'm going to try to get that from the seller. So the way that I get that from the seller is I've got an estimate from my carpet guy. He gives me 2 estimates. My plumber, everybody, this is how I do things on negotiation, okay? Is I ask for a Beverly Hills bid. That's what I tell my guys. Hey, Mr. Plumber, Taylor, Mickey, whoever my tradesmen are. Hey, I need a Beverly Hills bid for the electrical. What could this cost? If every bad scenario that could happen is there when you open that wall up, what could it cost if I went with the highest quality of every finish in this? Write me that bid because I'm going to use that bid to negotiate. But get together the real bid of if things go as you expect them to. We went with normal finishes that most people will choose. Get me that bid ready. So I'm going to negotiate with this high bid, knowing that, oh, we're asking for them to pay for $18,000 of carpet, knowing that I don't know what the number is, but it's probably less than that, and it will pay for everything. Because if I ask for 18 and they agree at 14, but the real bid was 11, I'm still in the black. I got my client the carpet replacement paid for, and we got 3,000 extra bucks. But the seller thinks what?
They got you done.
They think they won. Great. I'm happy for them to think they won. I don't care. You never need to know that you didn't win because I won. Right? So, but I have this conversation with my clients ahead of time. Okay, we're going to ask for this, trying to get this. What if they aren't willing to do that? Are we still willing to move forward? What if they will do 0? Are we still willing to move forward? It's really good to prepare your clients for the inevitability and the possibility that we may not get not only what we want, but what we need to even feel good about this and make it happen. I negotiate for way more than my clients care to get sometimes. They'd be fine at like, oh no, if they give us a couple grand, we're good. No, I'm gonna get 15. And sometimes we do. But what if we get nothing? Are we still willing to move forward? Okay. So I don't need you to give me that answer right now. I need you to think through that and talk amongst yourselves. And the reason I do that is because I don't ever want my clients to be concerned that I'm giving away their leverage. Okay. I don't ask my sellers, what's the lowest price we would sell for? What's our bottom line? I don't ever ask them that because I don't ever want them to be worried that I'm telling somebody that. My buyers, I don't say, hey, how much would we pay for this? That's not what I do. I say, hey, here's the comps. Here's what I think we can probably make happen. I'm going to try to make this happen. We can probably land somewhere here. Here's how I'm going to try to get there. I don't say, if we can't get that, are you willing to pay more? I'm going to go try to get this. I just need you guys to talk about what if they won't negotiate and do anything with us here. I want you guys to have had that conversation already. And again, what does this do between you and your clients? What am I building here with them? Trust above all else, right? Cody has my back even when I don't care. Cody is protecting me, my money, even when it doesn't matter as much to me. When I'm fighting harder for their money than they are, like they're never going to call anybody else. You'll get every referral that they have. People spend a lot of money buying leads. People spend a lot of money marketing, website, Instagram, whatever the hell they're doing. People spend a lot of time and money doing that. But I've got an army of past clients that are out looking for business for me because I did this for them. And I remind them of it. I've got a corporate pass to Topgolf that I call people and let them use like 3 or 4 or 5 times a week. So almost every day, Monday to Friday, my pass is being used by somebody, not me. And when I call them and say, hey, haven't talked to you in a while. How are you guys? You need to use my Topgolf pass. Come grab it. And they have to come get it from me at my house. I get to see them face to face and we'll chit chat and I will casually drop in the things that I've done for them in the past. Okay. Okay, we're going to skip this. I don't think this is something we're going to spend time on doing right now. Okay, so we've already talked through some of this. To me, these are not best practices. These are like necessities. Okay, you have got to call the other agent. You may come across that one that won't call you back. It's going to happen sometimes. It's not often, but you'll come across it sometimes. Okay, this is something that I do all the time, and I love making people uncomfortable with it. So for example, this offer that we got a little bit ago, they asked for 3% commission. Okay, because now it's a part of the offer. It didn't used to be. We used to push it on, we used to list it on the MLS what the commission was going to be. Now I can't do that. So they asked for 3% BAC, buyer agent commission. My listing agreement, my sellers aren't willing to pay 3%. They're willing to pay up to 2.5%. I work for my clients. I'm trying to get them at 2%. Save them a little bit of money, right? So agent calls me, and again, she's a good agent, a high producing agent, knows what she's doing. And I said, hey, appreciate your offer. My clients are discussing it, but we've got to address a couple things here. You asked for 3%. My sellers in our listing agreement, they're not willing to pay a 3% commission. Do you know what the agent's response was? She says, okay, well, my clients don't need to buy this house. I can sell them another house that'll pay me 3%. I said, okay. So even if this is the right home for your client, you're willing to have them not get this house for 0.5% to 1% extra commission? She goes, yeah. And I just sat there quiet for a second, and I started laughing. I was like, okay. It's a new one for me. Do what you got to do. And that was the end of the phone call. Like 15 minutes later, guess what happens? She texts me, that's fine, put it at 2%. Okay, so being very specific about silence. Silence is awesome. Silence is great. When I used to do door-to-door sales, we taught our guys that once you've asked them to make a decision on what they are buying, how much, how frequently, all that kind of stuff, once you've asked them that question and you're done with the question, the next person that talks is spending money. And those silences and pauses can get long. But most people don't like those awkward silences. So they would rather be the next one to talk and spend money and buy something than live in that silence for 60 more seconds. It's really funny. Okay, but you can do things like this to make them uncomfortable, but also to get your point across, right? Me sitting there for a second and going, okay. That hopefully that made her feel like an idiot, because you know what I'm never going to do? I'm never going to cost my clients the right home over extra 0.5%. I will never do that. And I never have. And there's a reason that my clients keep coming back. Okay. So keep quiet once you present an offer. Hey, just want to let you know, here's what's coming. Da, 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 da. Tell them what's in it. And then sit and let them respond. If they respond with, oh, okay, great, done. We could have gotten more, damn it. Right? Okay, the biggest thing is though, don't ever get like emotional or heated. Don't let your clients either. The hardest part about this job, I think, is we're almost like therapists half the time. Your clients will take things personally, get emotional about things. It is our job to walk them back from the ledge. Right? This is a huge part of negotiating, is getting people to stay rational and calm. But also preparing, if you've prepared them well ahead of time, they knew this was a possibility. They've already dealt with the emotion of what if this happens, okay? But it's important that you don't freak out. I've had agents straight up tell me that like offers are offensive, we're being dishonest, blah, blah, blah. I've had agents tell me that I've been dishonest. Be like, okay, how was I dishonest? Well, your offer says this. Like, yeah, and that's exactly what is going on. You misunderstood it because you didn't ask me. You didn't call me. I said our earnest money would be released to the seller so they could pay their mortgage. We'd release on the 31st of October. Their mortgage payment, they can pay out of that on November 1st. I never said that money was non-refundable. I just said you get to touch it early. But if we cancel, you still have to pay it back. And they didn't call me. They didn't talk through it. They misunderstood. That's on them, right? But don't ever let yourself get heated, because that's when you can really screw up a transaction. Okay. And again, always put your clients first. If you put your clients first, they will really take care of you in the future. Okay. What and how can we make this work is a good question I ask a lot. So this one that we're closing tomorrow, when we first made our offer, we asked for like $15,000 in concessions. It's only like 460 grand at the houses. My buyer doesn't need it all, didn't care about it. The seller said, oh, no, we're not doing that because we asked for 10 grand off the list price and we asked for $15,000 in concessions. Oh, they can't afford to do that. I'm like, okay, I'll talk to my client, but I don't think that we can make that work. Well, they're not going to do that. Okay, great. Talk to my client. She's like, well, should we come up? I'm like, no, they don't have anything else right now. Let's chill for a little bit. Like 3 days later, he texts me. He's like, hey, my sellers are willing to do 3,000 in concessions. We'd still need to be at list price. I'm like, okay, great. I'll talk to my client, but I don't think that's going to work. And that's it. Radio silence. Like 4 days later, so it's been a week now since our original offer. He calls me. He's like, okay, we can do the price reduction, but we can only do 10,000 in concessions. That's more than my client was hoping for. So we got like more than what she was hoping for. And all we had to do was be patient and be willing to walk away if a deal doesn't make sense, right? And keep your client in that space as well. Don't let them get emotionally attached to making a transaction work if it doesn't make sense or just doesn't work financially. Okay, so far I want to hear some like feedback from you guys. What are some things that you like sort of like ahas, things you've learned? Oh shiz, what did I do? I hit a button. Questions, concerns, ahas, things that you think will be good strategies and tactics for you going forward.
Mastery of the career, really just like knowing what you're doing, using the resources, the paperwork, like you mentioned, like knowing the contracts in and out, what benefits you, what doesn't benefit you. Like all that stuff is leverage in negotiations.
Yeah, absolutely. I've used so many documents against agents that because they don't understand them. They don't know each of those clauses. For example, if you're under contract, can the seller cancel? There technically is no such thing as a seller cancellation. There's a seller default. And they're not the same thing, right? Seller can't cancel a transaction, they can default. But there are repercussions if they default. Most agents only know of or think about one of them. So if I make an offer to you and I have $5,000 earnest money and the seller decides to default because they can't cancel, most agents know that, okay, the buyer gets their earnest money back and the seller has to match it out of their pocket. That's how a seller can end a transaction. But that's only if the buyer accepts that. The buyer can say, nope, I don't want your money. I'm going to sue you and make you sell me this house. And now, guess what? That seller can't sell that house to anybody else until it's come to a resolution. So now that home is tied up and nothing can happen. Most sellers can't afford to have that happen either. Now there's a time and place for every scenario, right? For every situation, every approach. I had one where a seller defaulted because the husband lost his job and now they couldn't afford to buy the next house they were already under contract on. So they were losing their earnest money on a home they were going to be buying. And we could have either sued them and made them sell us this house. The likelihood that a judge is going to force them to sell us the house when the only reason they canceled is because they now have no place to go and can't afford the new place, the odds are low. But we could have absolutely gotten our earnest money back and had the seller pay us the matching amount of earnest money, right? My client didn't need that money. He got his earnest money back for sure, but he's like, I'm not going to kick them when they're down, make them have to pay me when they've already lost a job and lost their earnest money on another house. Cody, what should I do? It's like, this is up to you. I wouldn't take their money right now either. If you feel good about that, then I wouldn't take their money, right? So there's time and place for all of this, right? But knowing what it says that you can do and knowing the ramifications and repercussions of each of those things that you can do and what if you do them is so important. Anybody else? Questions, ahas? There's way more thinking to this than most people think there is. I can't tell you how often it's usually women, I'm sorry. But when women say, oh, I should be a realtor, I love looking at houses. I'm like, oh my hell. That's what you think that this is, isn't it? But I mean, it's just women are into that, right? Like guys don't like looking at houses for the most part. Yeah. They have fun going and like imagining themselves in this new house. Like, yeah, like I get it.
Use that to your advantage when you're working.
Oh, yes, you can.
For sure.
Oh, yes, you can. When you have a husband and wife who are dragging their feet, they're like, we need to buy a home, but we're not ready yet. Okay, what aren't we ready on? Well, we don't think we want to move yet. We're waiting for rates to come down. Okay, great. Well, let's start educating ourselves on what's available in the price range we've got. Just get them in homes. That always changes. I'm not telling you to speed up your timeline. You're going to do that on your own. But once you tell me a house that you want, now I'm going to go to bat and fight for you to make this make sense, right? But yeah, so I'm going to use everything at my disposal to help them help themselves. I will tell you, in the years I've done this, almost never, and I honestly, I can't think of one, but almost never has it actually benefited somebody to wait. Okay, there are a lot of people that through 2020 and 2021 were like, this market's nuts. It's crazy. I'm not doing this. I'm going to wait until it dies down. Then guess what happened? Rates skyrocketed. And rates skyrocketed after guess what else went up over those 2 years? Home values. So you could have afforded a $550,000 house in 2021. Now your budget allows you at $475,000. And that house that was $550,000 in 2021 is now $640,000. So you're nowhere near buying the same quality of house, but your payment will still be the same. It's crazy. It sucks. Almost never has it benefited people to wait. That doesn't mean that you tell them, don't wait. You say, hey, I'm here when you're ready. Your timeline is my timeline. I'm happy to help whenever you want to do this. Be aware of this. As long as you take that into consideration, you know this is a possibility, and you decide to do it, then we're good. As long as you can live with that possible outcome, we're good. Okay, but you prepare people for all of that ahead of time. Questions, thoughts, anything? No. Yes.
When you're learning like documents, let's say I mean, at this point, I'm sure you've gone through most of them, all of the ones that we'll probably encounter, with like contracts and documents and things like that. But when you're learning about a new document and you want to be really versed on it for your clients and also for your negotiations, like what do you suggest is like the best approach to do that? Like, would you say that it's like some of it comes, I mean, I'm sure some of it comes with experience, but like, how would you recommend like studying up on the document?
So my last broker thought I was going to be his replacement. He didn't want to be a broker anymore. He thought I was going to be his replacement because about once a week I would call him or go to his office and be like, hey, I think that this means that I can get away with this. Is that what that means? Could you like deduce that from what this says? And I would talk through all that stuff with him. So he thought like, oh, Cody's analytical on all these documents. He's going to be great at like, he wants to be on the analytical side and help it. No. I'm looking at this for like, how can I help my clients? That's it, right? But there's so many different forms that you can use. And I think it's good probably once a week, just pull open one you've never seen and read through it. But also use people around you, use our broker, say, hey, this is how I'm understanding this. Is this how you understand it? Because I know that most people think it means this. It reads to me like this. How do you interpret that? Those are good conversations to have. There are forms that I've used that most agents don't know exist. So for example, there was a home that was in a bidding war back in 2020. My clients made an offer on, we lost to a cash offer that was like $1,000 more. But it was cash. They closed like 7 days later. I called the agent when I found out we lost, and I said, hey, can I just ask, did we lose out to a flipper? Because it was a home that needed some work. And my client was happy to do the work. And he's like, He's like, yeah, I believe they're a flipper. It's like, okay, you may not want to do this, but can I get their agent's contact info? My client is interested in buying it from them before they flip it and making them some money. He's like, okay. So he gave me their info. I called the flipper. They're representing themselves. I was like, hey, April, what are you guys planning to gross on this? She's like, this much. I'm like, okay, how much are you willing to gross if you don't have to take those 3 months and pay that interest? She's like, I don't remember what the dollar amount was, but it was like $18,000, $20,000 would be worth it to them to just immediately do it. So we used a form, it's called like a simultaneous close. It means that we're going to go under contract with the buyer that's under contract for that home. And the day they close, we close. So she buys it at this, we buy it at that an hour later. Most people don't even know that exists. But I went and sat down in my broker's office. I'm like, hey, here's what's going on. There's a flipper under contract. They're closing in 7 days. We want to buy it from them for more than they paid for it on like the day they, is there a way we can do that? He's like, I don't even know. Let me go see. And he calls me like the next day. He's like, hey, I found this document that we can use. Crazy. Like things like that don't happen very often. But again, thinking outside of the box, but also just go through those forms. There's the legacy forms link in the MLS. Find forms you've never heard of and read through them. See what they're for. See what they say. Anything else? We'll move on. We're going to wrap up in just a minute. Again, yeah. I am not the right person to ask. I don't do self-help books. I don't listen to like business improvement, self-improvement podcasts. I came to real estate with 16 years of sales experience under my belt. There are people that I like to listen to, but it's never like a specific topic. I just like the way they think, you know? So like people here, do you know Clay Winder? You guys met Clay? Man, the way that Clay thinks is incredible. Just the way he approaches just business in general and the real estate world is really impressive. I mean, he's got his master's in real estate from the University of Utah. So that definitely helps. But what I would suggest is find people that you respect or look up to, the way that they do business, their production, their success, and please don't base it off of what they flash. You guys know who Aaron Wagner is? Have you seen this in the news lately? You guys heard of AlphaCon a couple years ago? Oh gosh, okay. Stay away from the people that were presenting at that, please. But he was one of them. I think it was called like Wagner Capital or something like that. But he started this financial investing company, and he's been arrested for wire fraud and basically running a big Ponzi scheme. He's a former BYU football player, actually. He played linebacker at BYU back like 05, 06. His little brother Jaden played after him. I think he was a D lineman a couple years later. It's unfortunate, right? But like a lot of people follow those guys, be like, oh, look at his car. He has a private jet. Dude, that doesn't mean anything. People are really good at presenting what they want to present, but you don't really know what's going on behind it. So what you want to do is find people that you respect how they do things, right? I know this person does a lot of volume. You can't fake volume, right? Because I can look it up in the MLS. I can see who they award here on a month in, a month out basis. There are a lot of high producing agents, and spend time listening to things they put out, doing what they do. Red Sign Team does a podcast, and I don't think Clay is on there every time, but they're occasionally on there. But find people that so my partner, Kevin, that I started Wow House, my team with, the reason that we partnered is because he was presenting in Ignite right after I got my license. And I'll be honest, I thought Ignite was, at least the people that were presenting back then, was largely a waste of time for me. Because back then, Ignite was largely a, hey, here's how you do a sales job. I was like, I've done this forever. I've trained people on sales for 13, 14 years. I know this. I need to know how to apply it to real estate. And so when Kevin came in, he taught the negotiation course. And the way that his brain works, I'm like, I need that. How do I apply my current sales skills to real estate? So I sat down and talked with him. We became buddies really quickly. And then like 3 months later, I was like, dude, you've built teams in the past. why don't you have a team now? He's like, because I hate managing people. Like, dude, my whole career has been managing salespeople. Why don't we just do this together? So we did. But a large part of my success is because I was able to work with him day in and day out. In 2021, he passed away September 4th, 2021. And at that point, I had negotiated my split down and down and down with him because at that point, like we're partners, we're running the business together, but there are still leads that he would pay for that occasionally I would pick up. I paid him $140,000 in the 8 months and 4 days of 2021. And it was worth every freaking penny just to have someone that thought the way that he thought in my corner with me. So whether you want to join a team or not, I didn't want to join a team because I was like, oh, I'm not giving someone half of my commission. And I was talking to my brother-in-law who's a commercial broker up in Spokane, and he's like a 7-figure a year guy income-wise. And I told him that I was like, I don't think I want to join a team. I don't want to give away half of my commission. He's like, that's great. Keep 100% of your $0 commission checks. It's like, ugh, that sounds awful. And so he gave me the same advice. He's like, look, find someone that thinks the way you do and has made it work in real estate and someone that you enjoy and invest in learning from them. So I did. A team isn't a fit for everybody. That's totally fine. It was a good way for me to start because it wasn't so much team, so much as I latched on to one person and I paid him a lot of money over that first 2.5 years. 2 years, yeah, 2.5 years. But it was absolutely worth it. And I would gladly give $140,000 every year to have him to be able to just buddy to do it with again. But he's gone. So
Like mentorship.
yeah. Like I said, someone who you think you can match the way they do things. Right? There are people that I'm not a good fit for. I probably every month I have someone talk to me about joining my team. And I turn 90% of them away just because I know I'm not a fit for how they want to do this. I'm not an accountability guy. I'm not going to make you be in the office this time or this time. I'm not going to ask you how many calls you made. I want people who are already doing that, hold themselves accountable, and I'll give you the strategy. I'll coach you on how to have conversations with your clients. I'll coach you on how to have conversations with agents. I'm not a good fit for everybody. And most people aren't a good fit for me either because I need people that are already motivated that I don't have to babysit. So, but yeah, that would be my advice. Find somebody that you respect how they do what they do. You respect them as a person, and you think that you would like doing your job the way they do it. But a lot of this is just putting yourself out there. Every minute that I'm in my car, which is a lot, I'm on the phone. Every minute I'm on the phone with somebody. And a lot of them aren't clients, and maybe they will never be clients. But I got people who are committed to another realtor, but I'm friends with, and I still keep that relationship going because if it results in no business for me, the relationship is worth the call. The relationship is worth the time and the effort. And some of those have resulted in they'll refer me business down the road. Maybe not their business, but they refer me people. But even if they don't, it's got to be worth it. Okay, yeah, let's just wrap this up. So be professional, keep your goal in mind. Remember, I'm doing this for my client. My ego means nothing, right? What do I get out of this? I have a business, I have a career, I'll get more clients, and I'm just competitive and I like winning. I really like winning. So knowing that I won, I don't need the agent on the other side to know that I won because I know that I won, right? And you won't be able to win everyone, right? Sometimes they've got an asset that they know a bunch of people want and you're going to have to pony up if you want it. It happens occasionally. This part's really important is don't reveal too much, right? That's why I want people on the phone is because they will do that. They will tell me things that they shouldn't have told me. So, okay. I'm not going to go through this. I don't do social media. I haven't posted on Instagram in a year. But there's not a right or wrong to it. Everybody does it different. So, does anybody have any questions for me or anything?
I have a lot of questions, but I've
Okay.
talked a lot, so I might save them for later.
I mean, if no one has a question, you're welcome to ask, unless everybody wants to wrap up and then you can ask after. Okay. Are they questions that would be beneficial to the group? Okay.
Yeah, so I just wanted to know, like, when you first started, what are some things, I mean, I know that you've been doing sales for a long time, so you have that background, but When you first started with real estate, like what are some things that you wish you did differently in like your first like year of
I,
transition?
again, personally, I wish I would not have waited 4 months, 4.5 months to decide to go and attach myself to someone successful. I wish I would have done that earlier because that was a really stressful 5 months. But then like the floodgates opened once I just stuck it up and said, you know what, this is an investment for me. I'm going to invest in this because even though I will make less of every transaction, I will do more transactions. So it ended up, it was very worth it for me. So I wish I would have done that differently, but also, be honest with yourself. If you walked into a consultation with a seller or with a buyer, right? Either one, doesn't matter. Why should they hire you? Let's say today you had an appointment, you're walking and sitting down with somebody that either wants to buy a home or has a home they want to sell. Why should they hire you? What are you telling them? And I want to hear some answers, honestly. Like, what would you tell somebody in that buyer consult, in that listing consultation?
Say like nobody's gonna care about you more than I am.
Okay, but do you know that?
I believe it.
Okay. There are a lot of agents that care a lot about their clients. Does that mean they are equipped to actually represent them like fully, like know everything? Maybe not. There are a lot of people that care a lot about their clients and are still shitty agents. There are. The reason that it's great to be in this industry is because you can overnight be better than 90% of who's out there with licenses. I'm not kidding. There are some awful agents out there. Some of them even still get business. It blows my mind. But a lot of them, they care about their client. They're just not good at what they do. So I can tell them I'm going to care about them, but does that actually help them? Maybe not, right? I can care a lot about you, but that doesn't mean I won't kill you if I operate on you.
So you can tell them you care about making them the most money or having them pay the least amount for their deal. Like you care about their interests.
Okay. So again, just caring about it, does that make it happen?
Fairly.
Not necessarily, right? So I'll try.
I mean, if I was sitting
And
next to
I'm honestly, I'm not making fun of you, okay? I was in the exact same boat. So this is not like a poke fun at you. Every new agent goes through this. What is your value add when you're new and haven't done this before?
It's honesty. You got to tell them upfront what you're gonna do and what you can't afford.
Okay?
Give them.
Okay? My biggest suggestion to that, you said what you can't afford, don't buy your clients. Okay? If they're hiring you because you're cheaper, they're basically saying, I know you're not very good, but I'm saving some money. But they're not saving money. They're just not. Right? So honesty is super important. Do I have to be honest with them about things they don't ask me about? If someone doesn't ask you how long you've been in the industry, do you have to tell them? No. If they don't ask you how many homes you've sold, do you have to tell them? No. If they don't ask you how many homes you've sold recently, do you have to tell them? No. Do you know why? Because if everybody did that, 90% of the agents out there would have no business. In 2022, I don't know what the numbers are for 2023. In 2022, only 34% of all agents licensed in Utah sold 3 or more homes. A third sold 3 or more homes. What does that mean? That means those 66% aren't full-time. There's no way. You can't be a full-time agent and sell 3 homes a year. And if you are, you're just awful at what you do, and no one should hire you. Why do people hire them? Because they don't know that they only did 3 homes that year, less than 3 homes that year. Or it's a family member. Or they gave them, hey, I'll give you half of the commission. Great, go ahead, give them half the commission and you'll cost them $30,000 in purchase price because you didn't negotiate it down because you didn't know you could. So really, what I would be doing right now, so you have something to tell those people when you sit down in those consultations, is be as close to an expert on the market, on the paperwork, on the strategies as you can be, even though you haven't done it yet. Okay? Know the documents. Know the leverage that they give you or the potential liabilities they open your clients up to. Know the market around where they are. So if someone calls you to list their house, there are 3 different sets of comps that you should be running. Do you know what those are? What are the 3 different prices that you should know? There's no way to know those things until you actually like dive in and do it, right? If you're talking a potential listing, you should know what an appraisal will be. So you need to look at sold comps. You need to know what's my competition in the area, right? What am I up against for the same buyers? And then also, what are homes priced at when they finally go under contract? If they haven't sold yet, but they went under contract, I don't care what they started listed at. What did they move to before they finally got it to go under contract? I need to know all 3 of those things so I can talk with my clients openly and honestly about a strategy. And I will tell you, in the years that I've been in real estate and all the transactions I've done, I've had maybe one person ask me how long I've been in this before we're already either closing or under contract. They just don't ask because they've had conversations with realtors before and they can tell that I'm so much more prepared. I have a strategy. I can tell you exactly how I'm going to do this. And I'll tell you a really easy way to win clients. Tell them to go interview other agents. Hey, yeah, like go talk to somebody else. And I'll tell you the things you should be asking them. You should be asking them how much business have they done in the last 90 days? Because that tells you how skilled they are and aware of the current market. And ask them, how are you going to get me what I want? Not tell me you'll try to get me what I want. Promise me that you care. How? Tell me how. How are you going to get me what I want? And if an agent doesn't have responses right off the bat to those questions, it's because they don't know. They're winging it. We talk about the 3 Ps a lot. I do. I tell clients all the time, like, look, most listing agents do the 3 Ps. They put it online, they post a sign in the yard, and they pray to God it sells. That's their strategy for a listing agent. And it's true. Most of them have no strategy. It's, I hope this thing goes. So when you have those conversations with people, you can go in and be like, hey, you need to ask an agent. And for right now, I probably would not say to those people, ask them how much business they've done in the last 90 days. Because they're like, oh, okay, great. How much business have you done in the last 90 days? 0. But I would tell them, be like, hey, you need to ask every agent you're considering using, how are you going to get me what I want? And then you need to have landed on, here's the things I do. Here's the things I will do. So you can spit those out. Because when they ask that to other agents, they'll get a lot of hemming and hawing, for sure.
Any benefit to using the brokerage's successes as your own? Speak with the-
Maybe. I don't know. I don't talk about it. Because to me, like, I'm Wow House. I'm not KW. I'm at Keller Williams. Maybe I should. I don't drink the KW Kool-Aid. There are some real benefits to being at KW, for sure. I feel like KW is the best combination of price for me and resources and support. There are some that are going to provide a little bit more support and resources, but they cost way more. And there are some that cost less, but provide like nothing in the way of resources and support. So I really like the balance that they've struck here in terms of I've got my cap. And by the way, if you decide to join a team, maybe they've never told you this. If you decide to join a team, your cap is not 18,000 anymore. It's 10,500. So your cap goes down. The split that you pay on each commission check goes from 30% to the brokerage to 15. So anyway, there's ways that they help you manage that because they understand that you're paying a team. And I'm not saying all of you should join a team, right? But for sure, not all of you should write it off as something that's not a possibility and that you're not open to. It's something you should explore. Doesn't mean it will make sense for all of you, but maybe it does. And most teams operate a little bit more of like a boss and an employee scenario where they expect you to be doing these things. That's not the way I run my team. I don't want employees. I want independent business owners who want to like partner with me for a year to 2 years. And then I want them to be able to be capable of going and doing this on their own at the end of that. If they're not capable of doing it on their own, they're somebody I didn't want in the first place. If you can only survive because a team is feeding you leads, then you're probably not somebody that I want on my team. Other teams don't mind that. Great. They're happy to run an employee business rather than an independent contractor business.
First started, how did you get your first leads?
It's a great question. So I started, I was 36 when I got my license, right? Most of my SOI, you guys familiar with the phrase SOI? Okay. Sphere of influence. Now that doesn't mean people that you know. SOI is not just people you know, it's people that you would maybe have influence over in a scenario like this, right? Where they need to buy or sell. Okay. So most of my SOI was already in their second homes. There weren't a lot of people looking to do something. So I had a couple that were looking to maybe do something soon. But I knew I had the sales skills. I needed people that were looking to do something. So part of the reason it worked with Kevin and me is he'd been paying for leads for like 2 years that he didn't have a lot of time for. So he was kind of sinking money down the drain, but he didn't want to give up the leads, like the lead accounts and zip codes he was paying for, because once he gave them up, he couldn't get them back because there was a long waiting list at that point. So I was like, dude, look, just give me your leads, then we'll go 50-50 on them, because I just need people who are interested in doing something. And so we partnered very beginning of September, no, last week of August. And I had 3 closings October 1st. So 5 weeks later, I had 3 closings. So for me, that's how I got mine. Some people, while they're getting their license, they have people waiting for your license to be active so you can help them, right? I didn't have that. So that was a better path for me.
Those leads coming from like realtor.com, the leads you're paying?
Yeah, various resources, various sources. So like I've provided my team leads from Realtor, a little bit of Zillow, Market Leader. There's a bunch that we've tried. But by 2021, so basically 2 years later, 90% of my business was return clientele and referrals. Okay, anything else? Good. You guys, I'll give you my number. If you're welcome to text me, call me. My office is on the 2nd floor, northeast corner, by that little like walkout balcony kind of thing. That's my office. I don't have my name on the door because I don't like people knocking on my door. But if you have like something specific you want to talk to, you have questions about, feel free. If I'm in there, just to pop in. That's the environment that I like, is just, you got a question, like I'll give you my strategies for stuff because I know that most people aren't capable of doing it, and it doesn't hurt me. And there's plenty of business for all of us. There's plenty of business to go around, especially if we funnel the crappy agents out of here. I don't mean here, I mean out of the industry. There's lots of them. But so my name's Cody. My last name is Fehlberg. It's Fehlberg. And my number is 801-669-2905. My email is just my first and last name at KW, CodyFehlberg@kw.com. If you have questions or something you want to sit and chat, shoot me a message or give me a call.
Thank you.
We're good. Thanks, guys. Good luck.